Coming back, Ben. Thanks for coming back. Ben and Karen and Yua and Aisha and Megan and Shannon and Kim and Curt. Thanks to the 9 of us for coming back. That was really great. Those tips were, I think that was very valuable, for everyone. Yeah. We covered a lot of territory in that hour and a half with those 2 panelists. Sharon did a nice job summarizing in her slides too. So between those slides and between the panel, I haven't done enough panels in my classes. I think I could have invited 1 more person and had 3-person panels. So I think what I might do in the spring when I offer this class is do a 3-person panel or maybe a 4-person panel on a week like this. So maybe I'll invite one of you if to be on, if you've defended by that time. Probably not. Probably is all wishful thinking, but I do have a student defending tomorrow. So any comments before I go through some writing tips with all of you? Okay, soon, mate, when it gets to the 15, it'll be 5:15 your time, 8:15 my time. That's the 5-minute warning for me. So I won't be able to get through all of this. I'll try and hit the highlights on some things here. And again, this is a 10-part talk on writing and publishing. We're now moving from part 2 and skipping up to part 6. So we'll go backwards in a couple weeks to this earlier part. I think I'll do part 6 this week and next week to get through them. There's a lot of good stuff in here. At least I think it's good stuff. We'll see if you agree. You might disagree. And by the way, there's a free conference coming up on Friday and Saturday in Korea and Australia that I'm presenting in on learning loss. And I will send you the link to it. Like I said, you can sign up for free. We have at least 2 former students in IST who are co-directing this conference in Korea. Dr. KJ Kim or Kyung-Ji Kim from Dongguk University and Dr. Ji-Yoon Lee from Inha University, 2 of my very best friends and colleagues in the world, are running it along with a friend of mine, Danielle Logan from Griffith University in Australia. I'll present late Friday presentation, and then I'll be on a panel like this. So I'll give you some of Curt's advice. You got the Snoopy saying a good writer will sometimes search for hours to just find the right word. And that is very, very true. I am a former accountant, so I will constantly search digital thesauruses for the right word. And I go on a quest and I go on a journey. I find those right words. I don't like to have the same word twice. I don't like redundant words. So I love word smithing. I call it word bonking, but I do love that. So what kinds of things do I do in terms of my goals and my plans? And I'm going to, I think, hide my video panel. So we are recording this to the cloud, right, Sunmei? Does it say recording to the cloud? I think it does. I think I did hit record to the cloud. So I've already covered some of these things that, already in previous weeks. I do use a paper planner. I find that touching a paper planner and holding it in my hands is kind of my safety net for everything that's going on in my life. And I feel some comfort and security in having that. That's one thing. So you have to plan ahead. To be successful, you have to have some plans, digital plans, timeline plans, paper plans, whatever it is. You also have to focus. I mean, my son calls me ADHD and says I can't focus, but really the only way I do get a lot of writing done is because I can focus from time to time. It's just getting started. Like a half hour before class started, I started revising a paper and I really was getting into it. That's due maybe tomorrow to a medical journal of all things. We're writing a paper on my tech variety model for the medical profession. And so you have to focus. You have to find those time slots or spaces and allocate times in your planner. And then I note where my projects are. I have in my pants pockets, I have, so you all know that I've created a calendar for next year, but I like the Dalai Lama calendars because then I put little notes, I write on them for what projects I'm working on, or what students are graduating. I keep all these notes in my pocket. That helps me. It's a sense of security. So I have things wrapped around me they're my guides. I also look at what articles I have currently in process, what are about to get sent for review, what are in revisions, what's recently published. I constantly review and take a look at what I've done. I don't like just publishing and then don't think about it. I'll reread the paper after it's published and say, oh, okay, whatever. But I'll take a look at my overall every moment in time. What do I have out there that's pending? What data do I have that I haven't written up? I try and get a sense of all the different projects I'm on. So it's not just one-off and doing this and doing that. I want a complete view of where I am as a researcher. I think Sabahat is, running a series of studies with my friend Rob Goldstone, and she has to do that, or it'll get overwhelming for her if she's just doing this and that and this and don't even really reflect on what it is she got done, because then there's no sense of accomplishment, right? There's no sense of internal or intrinsic reward or celebration. Be responsive to both the editors, the reviewers, and your co-writers. If you're working on a team, don't blow off one of your co-writers and just because you haven't gotten to review the paper that they sent you 2 weeks ago. Let them know that you'll get to it tomorrow. You just haven't had the time. Be responsible. You don't have to be fast. You just have to let them know where you're at in the project. And put your, we have annual reports, put your writing plans for next year in those annual reports if you can, if you have those. 10 key writing tips. On my desktop about 15 years ago, I created a file called work file. In that work file, and I probably could share my screen and show that as well. In that work file, I have every year, every month. I could actually look up, January 2007 or May 2012. What projects I'm working on, and that's all resident on my desktop. That way, I don't have to dig down and hit this file and go to this subfolder and this subfolder and that subfolder. It's crazy. I don't remember all the subfolders. I just have them all on my desktop by month and by year, and that's a way to easily find and work on. Now, I also save the articles that I've published and by year. So 2001 to 1998, whatever. I can find every article published by year, but I've started saving what I've worked on. I have a file for each year of what articles I worked on, because then I can find the individual papers, the versions of each paper, if I need to go back to find those. I can find, here's Sabahat. So Sabahat's joining us. I'm sorry, I just talked about you and Rob Goldstone. I hope you caught that comment, but if not, you can watch the recording, Sabahat. So, have that ability to tap into each article that's on your desktop. I also save screenshots of articles I like with the dates and the URLs. I don't necessarily print the whole article out, but I'll save a screenshot of it and with the URL to find it. And I have one PowerPoint slide deck with 1,000 articles in it or news stories, and I can just filter through that. And I do different keynote talks, invited talks by just looking at the saved articles in there. I look for trends. I also listen to books in my car. Now I have a new car and I haven't figured out how to get the books to download into Audible. I've never used Audible before. I was using CDs, but I'll be doing that soon. I like listening to books for words. I learn new words by listening to books. I didn't score so high on the ACT, and we won't even give my score because it wouldn't get me into even Lower Potomac State University, which doesn't exist. But I'm learning new words. I'm constantly learning new words, and I think I'm improving in terms of my word use because I listen to books. I read articles for the words people use. I go to conferences. I listen to people. I write down the cool words that they use. Like grapple. Someone's grappling. Oh, that's a nice word. I'll write that down. And then I watch movies for educational scenes and episodes and ideas. Always, I'm thinking about the educational implications of a movie, no matter what the movie is. Lord of the Rings, a lot of educational implications of that movie. I save drafts of articles I'm writing late at night before I go to bed, and I send it to myself as an email just in case my computer freezes overnight. And that's happened before. Your hard disk crashes. So I make sure you put it to the cloud or send it as an email message to yourself. I ask friends to read a second and third draft of a paper, so I have other eyeballs looking at what I think is good stuff. They might find it needs a lot of work. As I said, I save my publications by year so I can go back in time and share with people when they contact me. So this idea you might get later in your career, Charan, or Charan's gone now, later in your career, Sabahat, you might save your articles by year that's published. Or Ben, if you decide to go beyond your dissertation, this is important. Now, it could be practice articles, it doesn't have to be theory or research, whatever. I just have one that went to press this week on 15 tips for helping self-directed learners. And then, save drafts of articles, as I said, in a special file, and 10 more tips. So some of you use mydictionary.com or yourdictionary.com or Webster's Dictionary. I find Collins to be the best. Collins is British, and because it's British, I'm learning new words. Collins is tremendous, and it has a dictionary as well as a thesaurus, as well as many other things, and it's free. So there might be better thesauruses out there, or as my father said, thesaurus. But you do take a peek at Collins. I think you might be surprised. Now, in the chat window, has anyone used Collins? Go ahead and type in the chat. I'm curious to know if anyone has used it. Just say yes. If not, I'll just assume it's a no. And look for historical information. I found that article on Elise Goffman in Wikipedia. That can be the starter place for finding much more about Elise Goffman and other people. Wikipedia is a rather powerful tool for your referenceware to find other things. You sometimes have to relocate when you're working. Like right now, I'm sitting in a chair. I cannot sit in this chair for too long. I was in a dentist chair for an hour and a half today. She's cleaning my teeth. Oh my God, I can't sit on my back for that long. And normally I need some Valium or something to sit back, and I'm claustrophobic on top of it. So you have to rotate a bit. And next week, Tiffany and Susie will talk about ideal writing spaces. Sometimes stand, sometimes I sit down. I have to have a ability to have a stand-up desk and just let your feet have a rest, or your back, just back and forth. Print out articles that you've read parts of them online. You might print them out to read the balance of them. If they're long articles, I find reading the whole thing is difficult in an online. So some of the articles you might print out and have them in front of you and hold them and mark them and all sorts of things. What I do, I also put piles of papers I've read on my pool table. I don't use it as pool much anymore, but then that helps me visualize where the research is by looking at sequentially, at different stacks, and it helps me make sense of it all. And then I put the URLs of articles in my slides. And so when I do a presentation, I have those URLs to find when I write the paper up. And I can easily locate the articles then. I don't have to do much searching. So when you do a slide, try and include the URL. Number 18, be more optimistic than pessimistic. If it's the opposite, you will not survive in the hellish world of academic scholarship. And it is a hellish world at times. It can be a celebration like last week we had with Silver Lining, and be the next day you go in, you get blasted in some paper and you pinch yourself. You say, I'm the same person I was yesterday, when I had success. And that is true. Be more optimistic that, I sometimes want to edit 3 different papers in one day, and I get to the end of the day, maybe tomorrow I'll do 3 papers, instead of saying I didn't get to all of them. I just, I'll do it tomorrow. I can get to it later. Look to the optimistic side of what you got done and what you can do, rather than what you didn't do and what got rejected. Now, we all need rejections. If you only got accepted papers, you get a humongous ego, and there'd be no calming you down. So you need that whack, something, whack in the side of the head, kick in the seat of the pants. Try and work when your friends and family aren't there. They might be out at a baseball game or watching the World Series with Megan or Karen or whomever, or when they're sleeping or when they're having lunch or whatever. I like the philosophy wherever you are is your writing space. When my department ends a meeting, I never leave the room. I'm sitting there, I'll just keep working. If no one has that room, I find conference rooms to be great places. Just keep it going. They're wide open, big spaces, you know, they're usually lovely, cushy chairs. If no one's reserved it, it's yours. You own that room. You were in it previously. By all means, just stay, you know. You'll find that you've already had that hour in the room or half hour with other people. You're already acclimated. You can just keep going, but close the door, maybe. Some of the writing tools that I use, I found that I burn through keyboards. And so I used to buy $70 keyboards every month, literally every month, because I burned through them. Now you can get these little keys to put on the keyboard. And it saves me a heck of a lot of money. Google search, don't use Bing. Bing is a horrible tool. Whoever thought of Bing, and the problem if you have a Lenovo or some other computer, they only have Bing and there's no way to get out of Bing. I've taken away computers to experts and they cannot find ways to get Bing out of there. So put a bookmark to Google or some other search tool so that you don't have to Bing all the time, because it's terrible. It's a terrible tool. As I said, email notes to yourself, your papers to yourself, just have it. Blog. If you blog, you get starter ideas. So a blog's a cool tool. Dropbox, as you know, I'm using Dropbox in here. I'm sharing dissertations. Tron said to read dissertations. They're in Dropbox. Zooms. I used to be a Skype person. Zoom is a good tool. Blue pens over black pens. Blue, you can read it. Black, you tend not to be able to read it from a distance and highlight things. Oh, I also have a gigantic syllabus. Some of you know the monster syllabus. I use that as a resource to write my papers from. And that's that is not a syllabus. It's a resource. It's like my savior. Oftentimes, I'll pay homage to that monster syllabus, and I'm always updating it. Write a letter to yourself about your future plans. There's a website called futureme.org that used to be free. Unfortunately, it's not free anymore, so I can't recommend this option, but write an email to yourself in the future about what you might accomplish in the summer, or might accomplish in spring break or winter break. Have some rituals. For me, it's saving papers and looking at my ideas written on those papers, talking to others about my ideas, saving a file of unused text from a previous paper something that got deleted, having these starter texts. Clear your email off. I'm a firm believer in getting rid of all the emails before working. Other people say you got to start writing and just ignore email. For me, I have this dissonance in my brain. I got to get through those emails. I try and get through as quick as I can. And then I've accomplished those. Now I can free up and I write, and I cannot think about anything. All those people wrote me emails, they're in bed and they won't bother me anymore. And then a checklist is very important. Checklists, you can accomplish a lot in life just by using simple checklists. My daughter loves checklists. If you have R511, there's an article in there called The Checklist. If you haven't taken R511 with me, just go to my homepage, click on R511. It might be week 12 or 13 or 11, somewhere in there. Soon you might be able to find my 511 it's a New York Times article, and put that in there. So here's some 20. I got 5 or 10 minutes left here for tonight. Because again, I have a student dissertating or defending tomorrow, and I told her I'd meet her and her husband. I have 2 former students also meeting with her. We're going to a place that Obama visited when he was at IU. Of course, that is Nick's English Hut, the best British pub in Bloomington. Some 20 writing tips. Mark days in your planner when you're going to write. I've already said this once or twice before, so I don't need to elaborate on it, but you have to explicate your goals. You have to visualize them. You have to have something down that's tangible. So put it in your planner. Those plans can change. It's okay. But at least you've got a plan. You've marked away time. So when Ben asked me, you want to go ride in my new car this weekend? Maybe we'll go to a game. And I know, Brad, I put it in my planner. I can't do that, but next week I could, And maintain a list. and network of your potential writing partners. Oh yeah, I could be working with Sunday. She'd be a great writing partner. And Kim, okay, yeah. A-Shot, okay, let's go science stuff. Okay, so make a list of who the potential collaborators are, and refer to it from time to time. You'll be surprised of the possibilities out there by just starting to create a list of who it is that you know that might be interested in a particular topic. I had a former student working at Intel write me today, asking for a collaborator on early childhood AI conversational tools. Who's working on early childhood AI stuff? And I had a few names. Some people in IST are. Find good people to work with, because there's 7 billion people on the planet, and you don't want to work with egomaniacs or people who lie. Just delete those people from those lists, and you'll have plenty of people left over. Just work with the great people, and then you'll be just happy. You know, if you want to find happiness, you know, avoid people who are blatantly lying to you, and you know they're just making stuff up. Draft a timeline with flexible goals. Here's my timeline, my submission timeline. When's the draft going to be done? When can I share it with my colleagues? Just have this down there so that you know approximately in 4 or 5 months what you'll have done, Sabahat. And in 2 months, this is in 1 month. So you have this ready for publication. You know, 2 weeks ahead of submission deadline, this is where I'm going to be with my simulation research. Think ahead about the publishing potential of every project. Everything you're on it has a tons of publishing possibilities. It's just being able to turn it into the format that different journals or magazines or newsletters want. So I've developed a list of journals. I showed you that in week 1 or 2, over 100 journals in the IST field. I was using it tonight to help someone out who did a book review of one of my books, and she wanted to know where to send it. So go to these, you know, lists. It has a British Journal of Ed Tech, has ETR&D, has Tech Trends, has all of them. And just, you know, think about your project. Look at what's been published in those. Be a bumblebee and be a butterfly. That means at a conference, you can bounce around to different rooms. I'm a firm believer that one can, you know, go to the back of the room when someone's presenting, and if it gets to a boring part, just leave and go to another room. You know, unfortunately, conferences don't have a star system saying this is a great speaker or a fantastic speaker. You just typically go to a session based on the title, sometimes based on the author that might be a famous, but they might be horrible speakers. So you got to be a bumblebee, or you're not going to learn anything, or you're not going to enjoy conferences. And be a butterfly to the water fountain. Go to the water coolers and interact with other people. Go to the cafes. So you have to learn how to bounce around and talk to others and share with others. You know, this last ACT, there were people who hadn't seen each other in 3 years. Everybody was a bumblebee and butterfly, you know, at that conference. It was phenomenal to see how many side meetings were taking place. Save your unused text. Things that are deleted, things the editor says delete, save it for next time. And you might not even use it fully next time, but it's a starter. You can have it up there so you don't have writer's block. I've mentioned this before to you. Always scan the reference section maybe first before you read the article. I think you'll find more things of value if you go to that reference section, because you see where articles are being published, who's publishing the articles, and what year they're being published. Also, you're seeing how long the titles are. What kind of words are they using, right? So you want to scan those references. I'm an accountant. I have a fun time reading dissertations and marking them up for APA and all this stuff. Don't like APA 7 all that much, but I still, you know, you miss a comma, Ben, if you miss a comma, I'll find it. If you have one lowercase word that's supposed to be uppercase, I will find it. And of course, you know, from I've read your papers before, I do look for so references to me are more important than the paper sometimes, you know, because that's where a lot of knowledge happens. Dozens of studies are in the references. Well, there's only one study in the article. I'd rather be attuned with dozens of studies. Avoid high quality journal fixations. Sabahat, I know you want to publish in high quality journals, but there are times you're going to have to go for tier 2 journals and tier 3. I know in psychology, they focus, and in ed psych where I was, everyone focuses on SSCI, high tier. During pandemic, all my colleagues in Korea, we all went for SSCI, Social Science Citation Index. But I've seen colleagues almost not get tenure or not get tenure because they wouldn't publish things in anything other than a top tier journal. They had to learn, sometimes you lower your expectations, just get it out and move on to something else. Sabah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, in Turkey, people care a lot about SSCI. You know, people always talk about, oh, I had an SSCI publication, and you actually need SSCI. I mean, you don't need, but if you have SSCI, you gain more points towards your promotion.
Right.
As associate professor. Yeah, how is it like here in the US?
So the US is not as much, but in Korea, even more so. You can get a $5,000 pay raise, not pay raise, bonus, 4,000 to 5,000 for an SSCI article. I had 8 of them a couple of years ago, and I didn't get anything. And then my colleagues got like 40,000. Or anyways, you can get a huge pay raise in Korea. You can get a distinguished professor in Taiwan, and you can get tenure in China for 1 or 2 SSCI. But in Korea, it's a point system. So you do want to either have Scopus or SSCI. Sometimes Scopus is good enough. So the journal, online learning journal, is going to become SSCI soon, I think. Right now it's Scopus, and it counts in Korea, probably counts in Turkey as well. It's a very good journal. I got a special issue going out soon. It'll come out in March. There are some journals that just haven't been reviewed, and they're in process of being reviewed for SSCI. And some lose their SSCI status. But some of it's a scam. It's run, you know, by companies, right? And they're making money off of this, like always, you know. So it's a good point. We first try SSCI if possible. We try. Maybe go SSCI the second time. But the third or fourth time, you take the second tier, you know. For first 2, yeah, you try as hard as you can, persevere and all that. Sometimes, I think one article we got, I have 13 articles published with Min Young Do since the pandemic. Only 1 is not SSCI, but we tried 4 other journals first. Yeah, I got a good journal. Be second and third author is okay once in a while. Don't spread yourself out that you don't have any time, but you have limited resources, limited brain power. Sometimes you're going to be second, some third, fourth. I'm on one with 6 authors or something that's got published on ebooks. It just got accepted from Beijing Normal folks. I think I'm last or second last, and they needed my advice and help towards the end to sculpt it. And that was my expertise to make it readable, and that's my role. So you might have different roles in different projects. I can lead, or Sabah can lead one project and be a second or third author on another. If you need summer money, teach, if you're a professor, anyhow, if you need summer money, teach intensive courses in the summer, short courses, and then free up time to write. Always think about how you can free up time to write, or teach in the fall or spring semester, teach back to back. I taught 2 undergrad ed psych courses back to back. I was tired after teaching them back to back. You know, I could teach a Saturday class for 5 hours for 8 weeks. In the fall, I'll do this class on instructional strategies for 5 hours, first 8 weeks. Then I free up 8 weeks at the end of the semester where I'm not teaching that class. So you have to free up time. And then edit your papers a lot. Be Beethoven, a little bit Mozart, be more Beethoven. In my research, my dissertation, we find there are a lot of people are combiners. They write a lot of stuff down, they think they're done, they come back the next week, they make revisions and change them. So Beethoven tinkered at the point of utterance. He's constantly tinkering with his text, changing it around. Mozart would pace back and forth and just write it all down at once. So in the chat window, write an M if you're like Mozart, a B if you're like Beethoven. And maybe we'll make this or the next point, the last point that we make. Yeah, so we'll end there and we'll finish the rest of them next week. We'll stop sharing there. I'm curious if people are more like Beethoven, Sune, Ben, more like Mozart. Okay, I can see that. All right. I can't see all of yours, Karen and M. Okay. So So I've gotten through some things here this week, and you as a B, Beethoven. Okay, I've had you before in class. So those are some tips of mine. I'm going to give the other half of them next week after Susie and Tiffany tell us about writing space. Any final comments for me or questions for me?
So it's not really a question or a comment, but I think you will appreciate this. I shared a photo in the chat. I didn't mean to send it when it did, but it sent. So if you go ahead and open it, or I can share my screen, but if you open it.
Just share your screen.
Okay. All right, hang on. Let me.
If you want to, it's up to you.
Yeah, that's fine. Let me just get it pulled up so I can share just this. So since we're all heading into quals, I wanted to share this because I'm quite sure we're all sort of feeling this way.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to acknowledge the quals.
So this is me slogging up the quarry in Indiana, wearing an Indiana shirt when I was probably 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there, because my brother and sister both went to Indiana as undergrads, and they're 15 and 17 years older than I am. So I found this picture the other day, and I was like, that's sort of, I think, how we probably all feel coming into this week. But this was in Indiana at the quarries, wearing my Indiana shirt as a wee one. So I figured I would share that with everybody as we head in and say we're almost there. So
looks like my daughter, actually. But yeah, okay. Blonde hair.
Well, that's me.
Yeah.
So, but yes, back when, God, that was probably 90. I don't know, somewhere 94 maybe, so maybe 9, but
an adventurer nonetheless. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So there you go. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that, and also good luck to everybody who's taking quals this week. I cannot answer questions about quals once they begin, but before you sit down for before Thursday, if you can ask me on Wednesday any question that you want, I'll be happy to try and answer it before the exam appears. But I can't, once those start, I can't do anything. So I look forward to reading them and celebrating with you when you pass. And there are other final comments or questions? If not, I am going to stop this recording and want to thank people for part 2 of week 11, and hope people can come back for week 12 next week and hear from Susie and Tiffany and myself. And then we hear from Maina Ju the following week with myself as well. And then I don't know, we have a just one-to-one conferencing with me, and we have some sharing in the final week. So we're near the end of this course, and I really had this class has been great. Everyone comes and shares and is attentive and highly in tune with what's going on. And this is still being recorded now. I can honestly say, and Megan knows this, not as many people come for the other class sessions. So Megan comes and maybe 1 or 2 others. So I'm going to stop the recording.